So, I'm back, and in this chapter we're going to go ahead and just discuss ZApp Link and actually get some work done. In the last chapter I just wanted to introduce the process of using Projection Master and how it can aid you with a bunch of different work. But for the most part I didn't really feel like using it. I actually would prefer to use ZApp Link. That's because that's just what I usually use. So before I go ahead and just start painting on this model, what I wanted to do is I wanted to just go ahead and just turn off solo. I'm going to go back into my object here. Let me just turn on, okay, so we're working on that eye. I'm going to now turn this eye off because it's just going to get in the way. And I'm going to very quickly shade some of this stuff in. So I'm going to clone, or not clone, but pick a color from here. Going to choose a slightly bigger radius, focal shift of that much, and right now I'm only Z adding, so I'm just going to turn off Z add and only RGB because again I want to only paint. And let's go ahead and just paint some color into here. Now if this is getting in the way, what you could do is you could always just go ahead and just turn on transparency, and this way you'll be able to paint all the way across this model with ease. And of course if you go into solo mode, you'll notice that I have in fact painted through here like that. Now if I had, of course, transparency off like this, and I actually, if I didn't have solo or transparency on, and I had a color like this and I had gone ahead and painted, what you'll notice is that now if I go to solo mode, I have only painted a brush stroke through here. But if I wanted to, for example, do something like this, and I go all the way to here, and I go to solo, you'll notice that it didn't actually paint across the entire model. It only painted as much as it could. So I usually use transparency on, and at the very least I could see exactly what I'm painting. And I really should turn off lazy mouse. Okay, so I'm just going to keep painting until I kind of fill in this section here. And don't worry if you add a little bit too much of this pink stuff in here, because another thing you could always do is you could just go ahead and just use layers. You could add a new layer and paint this stuff in and out however you want. So I wouldn't really worry about making any kind of mistakes because quite frankly they're just really easy to fix anyways. If you need any other colors in here, just go ahead and just paint them. I'm going to add a little bit of this beige in there, just a tiny bit. Okay, so let's get out of our solo mode. Let's turn off transparency and let's see what we got. So we got something like that. And it's not too different from what I had. So you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and just add this a little bit more and add some of the pink back in, especially towards the top of there. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not really entirely sure if that was a positive change or not. You know what, actually it wasn't. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it as it is right now. So when I'm going to go into ZApp Link, I'm probably not going to want to have my entire model visible. So I'm just going to go ahead and just turn on solo mode, and I'm only going to focus on this mode here. Let me just fix that for a sec. Okay, and for the first little bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just work in from the side view here. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to paint in some of these veins here. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and just work from the front view, and I'm going to add some of the remaining veins, and I'm just going to fix up the eye here. I'm going to paint some more variation, other colors and stuff like that. So I'm just going to zoom in pretty much as I can, like, well, not like that, but like that, until it fills in my canvas. I keep misclicking. Anyways, I'm just going to go back into document. I'm going to press ZApp link, and I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'm going to turn on fade. And all the other options I don't need. And you know what? Let me just press cancel and let me just turn off perspective. ZApp link. That's all good. It's going to link, and I'm going to be put into Photoshop. I'm going to update, and here we go. So again, we have our 3 layers here. The one that I'm mostly worried about, or the one that I'm going to want to be working on, is this one right here. I also have to make sure that it's named layer 1 and everything's set up exactly as it is right now. This layer here is just providing me the shading data. So if I turn off this shading layer, it's almost as if this model was being shaded using the flat layer in ZBrush. This is just a color, so with just the shaded and just the fill shading, all I get is this. So if you make any kind of layers, I can, for example, just go ahead and just press new layer. I can paint any kind of detail I want. So let me just pick a color in here, and let me just go ahead and just paint something in here. If I want to actually go back into ZBrush and project this detail back, what I have to do is I have to merge it back. So I'm going to go ahead and just preserve. And so that you still see layer 1. You see all my new detail. My alpha is preserved, everything is fine, and in order for me to go back into ZBrush, what I have to do is I have to press Control S to save this image. I have to minimize ZBrush to go back into, minimize Photoshop in order to go back into ZBrush. And ZBrush gives me 2 options. I can either go back into Photoshop by returning to the external editor, or I can also return into any other application like Painter or any of the others, or I can re-enter ZBrush. So let's re-enter ZBrush. As you can see, my detail is back, but it's not projected yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up now, and it's going to project the data back into my model, and we have a painted result. Now this is kind of ugly in here, but I can always fix that very easily. So we have this, and yeah, so let's just keep going. Going to go back into ZApp link. Now at this point in time, what I could also do is I could always just place this button somewhere in the interface. So let's go ahead and just go to preferences. Let's go to custom UI, enable customize. And now I can take this icon here, I can press and hold Control on my keyboard. I think actually it might be a few other keys like Control and Alt or something like that. I know that they changed this for this version, yeah. So if you press and hold Control and Alt, you can click any icon and you can place it anywhere in your interface that you like. I'm just going to leave it here. And then what you have to do is you have to go back to preferences, enable customize, and just turn it off. And of course your icon is going to be here. Now if you want this to be saved for next time, what you have to do is you have to make sure you go to config, and you just go ahead and just store config. And next time you open up ZBrush, this icon will be here. So let's go ahead and just go back into Photoshop. Let's drop now. It's going to link it, and I'm going to be back into Photoshop. I'm going to press update, and now I'm just going to go ahead and just zoom, or maybe not, I don't know. I'm just going to basically just paint all these details, but I'm actually going to paint them on a new layer altogether. And the reason why I want to do that is because when I'm painting on a new layer, I can always just move stuff around, I can fade stuff in and out, and erase whatever I don't like. So if I, for example, just go ahead and do something like this, I can very easily do something like, add another layer to fade stuff in and out with. Or I could just erase, how you usually erase in Photoshop. Or I could, of course, just move that layer and move those elements up or down exactly how I want. So for now, I'm just going to very roughly draw in some details. And you know what, I don't really care about these veins right now, so I could even just go ahead and just delete them. I'm just going to go back into my paintbrush. I'm just going to select this color here. I'm just going to paint these out actually. Now, sometimes painting in Photoshop and recording videos like this can actually slow you down a little bit because the recording software could actually, you know, again, slow down the process of recording or, painting and everything else, because painting really is very CPU intensive. So sometimes some of this stuff actually takes a while to kick in. But yeah, the cool thing is, again, I could just very easily just make as many layers as I want, fade them in and out, and just keep painting. And yeah, the really cool thing is that I can just go ahead and just erase any of my detail at any given time. I can move stuff around. I can shade it in. I can, do whatever. I mean, I'm given so many options with this. And of course, I probably have too many veins, but that's perfectly okay, because I can just go ahead and just erase whatever I don't like. Like that. And of course, I can just go ahead and just press Control E to merge this layer with the one below. So you can also go to Layer, Merge Down, Control E. So let's just go ahead and just select this top layer. Let's press Control E, press Preserve. You have to press Preserve because otherwise this mask will be gone. So go ahead and just press Preserve. And now that we have this painted, into this layer, I can go ahead and just press Control S to save. And I can minimize ZBrush or Photoshop again and re-enter ZBrush. And of course, you'll see the new result that I have here. I can go ahead and just go pick up now. And it will paint that detail into the model like that. So let's continue drawing the veins a little bit more. Now, for now, I'm just using a very kind of pale color in here. I'm not really choosing anything strong, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start layering these veins across this model here. Let's go back into Document, ZApp Link, and go back into Drawing. And of course, once we're back, we have to press Update. It'll update the viewport with the latest view. And let's go ahead and just select this layer and press New Layer so it puts a new layer above it. And now we can go ahead and just keep working. And don't be afraid of making any kind of mistakes either. I mean, as it is right now, I could choose whatever kind of color I want. I can paint whatever it is that I want on this layer. And right now I'm erasing instead of drawing. But anyways, yeah, I mean, basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep painting across here. Like that. And of course, I'm going to add another layer altogether. I'm going to put it above here. Now, one thing that you should notice that if I have nothing selected here and I create a new layer, it actually creates it above everything. If I have something selected and I press new layer, it puts it above that one. So that's just another small bit. I'm going to make a smaller brush, and I'm just going to keep drawing these veins here. And again, you know what? It really doesn't matter if I'm painting these on too hard right now, because I will be, in fact, doing things like this, where I will just go ahead and just fade it in, fade it out. I'm going to be very selective about what I do. So now that I have all this, I'm just going to go ahead and just fade this in as well until it kind of works. And really right now the only veins I really want to be very strong is just the thickest ones. So you know what, I'm actually going to create a new color. I'm going to make an even deeper one. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to create maybe like 1 or 2 very strong veins. And that's not going to do it. I'm going to also have to increase my opacity. Like that. And maybe another one. Like that. So now again, I could just go ahead and just fade these ones in. I could select these ones, maybe fade them out a little bit. Fade those ones a little bit further. And yeah, you know, I mean, that's basically how I usually work within Photoshop. I mean, I just have a bunch of control layers, and I just do my work with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer altogether, and I'm going to choose a color for me to kind of paint over in this. So I'm just going to choose a bit more, almost like a peachish color, if I can find it. Like that. I think this will do. And I'm just going to go ahead and just cover a little bit of this eyeball with that color. Now, I'm not really worried about this right now, even though I'm, you know, painting over parts of the model that I've painted, you know, on so far, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just choose a blend mode, and I'm going to fade this out. Because all I really want to do right now is I just want to, you know, kind of fill it in with a new color, but I don't want to overwrite anything that I've done so far. And I think I'm just going to go into hue or color like that and fade it out, because all I wanted to do is just add an extra color in there. Like that. Okay, so we have that kind of done. I'm really not sure if yellow is kind of the best option for this, so while I have this layer selected, I'm going to go ahead and go into I'm going to go into these adjustments here, and I'm going to then go ahead and go into hue saturation. I'm just going to edit this color until I get something that I like. And again, you know what, I'm not really going after anything realistic here, just trying to explore my options. Okay, you know what? Now what I'm going to do is, now that I have all these layers, I'm just going to go ahead and just select all these. I'm going to merge them all like that, so I have all my layers in one, and I'm just going to go ahead and just merge this with the one below. I'm going to press preserve, and now that I have this, I can go ahead and just press Ctrl S to save. I can minimize this, go back into ZBrush, re-enter ZBrush of course, and go ahead and just press the fade button, make sure that's on, press pick up now, and ZBrush will do its thing. And here's the result that we have so far. And of course, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take this color here, and I'm just going to kind of apply it to more of this model. But let's see how it actually looks with everything else selected, or you know, with the rest of the model. And as I can see right now, those veins are probably a little bit too much. Probably, and by probably I mean definitely way too much. But at the very least, you know, I'm making some sort of progress. I'm seeing what you know, this thing will look like. And you know what? I'm just going to go back into solo mode. I'm going to go back into painting this eyeball. And I'm just going to go back into ZApp link and do the thing all over again. I'm going to just have to paint a little bit of this out of there. Of course, I have lost my layers, but that's whatever, that's fine. I can just pick one of these colors here and easily erase some of that detail there. And of course, the reason why I'm not worried is because, quite frankly, I have this on another layer. And it's okay if I make the eyeballs splotchy. I mean, eyeballs aren't exactly perfect. And at the same time, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and just paint some irregularity to the outside of this eyeball. Because right now what I have is I have something that's just a little bit too perfect from all angles. This circle is just way too perfect. I want to make sure that there's some irregularity in there as well. Of course, I could do the same thing with this. Just paint all these details manually. And then, of course, when you're done doing whatever it is that you were doing, you can go ahead and just press, again, Control S, minimize ZBrush. Actually, so re-enter to accept edits anyways, or new layers found, return to merge. So I'm going to go back into ZBrush. I'm going to go back and merge this layer back with the one below. Go preserve, press Control S once again, minimize ZBrush, re-enter ZBrush, and here you go. So let's pick up these details. And let's get out of solo mode to see how it actually looks. And this is actually a lot better. Obviously, you know, these veins are a lot more subtle now, and I do definitely like them a lot more. And I guess the next thing that we could do is we could just paint on these, you know, much smaller kind of veins, just very, very thin, maybe like 1 or 2 pixels thin. Just paint obviously a little bit more across here, and of course I could just sample the colors from here and just paint them on there. So that's one thing that we could do. What else? What else? I don't know. I mean, that's the workflow that I use with you know, with ZBrush and with ZApp link. I mean, for the most part, I mean, that's basically what I do. And of course, to fix the inside of this eye, I'm just going to go ahead and just pick the C button here. I'm going to now paint in here, except of course right now I'm in only ZAdd. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to ZAdd. I'm going to pick I'm going to paint on the inside of the eyeball. And you know what? And if you ever have a hard time painting on the inside of the eyeball, you can always just go do this. Go to solo mode, center on the inside or on the center of the eye, press polyframe like this. And what we're going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and just press Control and Shift to enter this mode here. I'm going to go ahead and just press select. I'm going to choose lasso or any one of these, it doesn't matter. But basically what I want to do is I want to change this selection mode from rectangle to a circle, and I want to have square and center on. And now when I do my selection, I'm going to select things like this. So I have the inside of the eye selected, and now I really don't need polyframe to be on anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, I'm going to minimize geometry, and I'm going to go into visibility, and I'm going to keep pressing the grow button until I have exactly what I'm looking for. This would obviously be a lot faster if I did the visibility on my model with less geometry. But for now it's okay. So I'm just going to keep clicking this a bunch of times until this grows all the way around and I have my eyeball selected like so. So let's just keep growing and let's see what we get. You know what, that's probably enough. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fill this all in like that. And at the same time, one thing that I should also note is that I'm going to select this and deselect this. So press Control, Shift, select, press Alt to deselect that portion of the model. And now I'm going to go into, where's my polygroups? I'm going to go into polygroups and go to Auto Groups. And now, whenever I go into polyframe, you'll notice that I have one group for the inside of the eye, I have one group for the outside of the eye, and now whenever I paint in in ZApp Link, I can always just go ahead and choose only this group here, and I can just paint on this group without having the inside of the eye actually visible, so when I project it really shouldn't project. So let's see how that works. If I go ahead and just press ZApp Link now, fade, target app, that's all set, everything's fine. Update, yep. And I don't know, let's paint like maybe one or two of more of these veins. I'm going to go ahead and just press new layer. I'm going to put it above this one here. Select one of these colors, make it a little bit more intense. Like that. So we have something like that. You know what? I'm just going to erase a little bit of this. And I'm just going to go ahead and just merge with preserve. Oops. And then I'm going to go ahead and just save. And after I saved it, I'm going to go back into ZBrush, reapply, pick up now. And of course, now that it's picked up, I'm going to unhide the part that I hid before. And you notice that the inside of the eye is just fine. So yeah, so always also remember that whenever you have whenever you're projecting any kind of paint on any parts of the model, whenever you see any kind of a boo-boo happen like that, where things are just projecting wrong onto parts of the model and you don't want that, just make sure that you hide parts that you don't want to project on and just paint only on the parts that you do want to project on. So we have that part of the eye done. Now, one thing that we also have to consider is that if I go ahead and just turn off solo, this character can in fact move his eye to the side a little bit more, right? Which also means that I probably have to paint a few veins on the other side of the eye. So you know what? I'm just going to do that outside of this tutorial. I don't think I really have to explain myself too much. But for now, I'm just going to edit this little part here. I've already added the imperfections to the outside, and I like that. I might actually add a little bit more here, but now I'm going to do it from the front of the eye. Okay, so my eyeball is centered. I'm going to go back into ZApp Link. I'm going to go ahead and press drop now. And now I'm going to just mostly focus on this area here. I'm going to go ahead and just update. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very quickly do something. I'm going to cheat a little bit, but this will also show you the kind of things that you can do in ZBrush, or rather in Photoshop. I'm going to go ahead and just, nope, not that. Now, if you're drawing a circle, for example, one thing that you could do is you could just go ahead and just start drawing the circle from the center of the eye, like this, Now when you press Alt, it'll start drawing it from the middle, and when you press Control or Shift, it's going to constrain it so that you draw a perfect circle like that. Of course, what I really want to do is I want to move that selection, but of course that's not the way I wanted to do it. So let's just go ahead and just draw it from here like that, and that's probably going to be fine. I mean, all I really need is I just want the center of the eye. I want to then go ahead and just paste it in here, and of course I'm going to then go to free transform. I'm going to resize it until it fits exactly where I need it to. Like that, and I'm just going to press OK. Now I don't really care that this isn't that this is all shaded kind of weird like that. I really don't care right now, and of course the reason why I don't care is because I'm just going to go ahead and just lower the opacity first of all. All I want is I just want more details in there, kind of overlaying, so I could just go ahead and just choose a different blend mode. Choose something that's going to work. Maybe even something like that. Just obviously lower the intensity. Maybe that's a bit much. See, something like that. At the very least, now I get all the fibers in there and all the other details. But again, some of these blend modes are just not doing it for me. Not really liking the result there. Maybe even darken or multiply. Now another thing I should also do is at this time I should also go ahead and just use this mask here. I'm going to then go ahead and draw from the center. I'm going to once again do something like this. And what I really should do is I should go ahead and just select the outside, so I'm going to inverse. So now this portion of the drawing is selected and not the inside here. And when I do, actually, now you know what, I guess what I could have done is I could have just filled in this circle here, and then you could easily just select this layer here and then just hit inverse. So image, adjustment, or where's invert? Okay. Invert here. So now I made an inverse of this alpha here. I have the center selected like that. I'm just going to view it. That'll work. And all I have to do is I just have to take this and I have to somehow go ahead and whatchamacallit. What I have to do is I have to basically blur these edges. So there are ways to do that, of course. One way which is to basically just make a selection, feather it, and fill colors. I could just obviously manually paint that in, which I probably will end up doing. Like this. Because I already have a bunch of colors already painted in, which I probably want to keep. And right now, it really doesn't matter if I, for example, even make a mistake like this. It really doesn't matter. And the reason I say that is because I can very easily switch my color, and I can paint all that detail that I just erased right back in. And of course, the reason why this works is because my alpha is right there. And of course, if anything is too big, if for example this black part is just a bit too big, you can go ahead and just select this layer, unlink the alpha, because right now I'm going to want to scale the iris, but I'm not going to want to scale the alpha map. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to Edit, Free Transform, and I'm going to want to transform from the center. So the way I'm going to do this is basically after I click on any of these handles, I have to press and hold Control, and now it's going to basically scale outwards like that. And of course, once I'm done, I have to press this, or I could go into a warp, you know, basically a warp grid, which I could then use to readjust anything I want, and then I press OK, and it's all done. And now, of course, I could just go ahead, relink this and that. I could select my layer now, and I could keep working on my alpha that I was working on before. And again, if you're not happy with, you know, the blending mode that you're using, you could always just go back and change it to anything you want. Like that. And of course I could just create another layer altogether. And now I'm going to fill this part in. Like that. And now I could just go ahead and just select these two layers, press Control E to merge them. And of course, once they are merged, I now have to press Control E once again, press Preserve, and I have my eyeball painted on. I do kind of like this result actually. You know, I have some of my old eyeball. I have the new iris painted on. You know, I obviously could have maybe kept a little bit more of the old one, so I might even want to go ahead and just undo that and maybe lower the intensity. I obviously don't want to, you know, choose the original one that like the textures that I imported. I don't want to overdo it, but I just want to kind of add some more variation to this eye like that. So let's go ahead and just select these two layers, press Control E to merge them. And now I'm going to keep pressing Control E until, of course, this layer 1 is merged. I'm going to press Control S to save, minimize, and re-enter ZBrush. And our result looks like that. Very, very cool. And just basically pick up. And here's our eye so far. So that looks pretty sexy. The only part I don't like is the fact that the inside has been painted on. Of course, the reason I did that is because I didn't, you know, hide the inside of the eye. So I'm just going to go ahead and just press Control Shift and just hide that part or make that part visible. And I'm just going to have to go ahead, pick that color, and draw on that part only. And now, of course, Control Shift, click outside, and now I have something like this. So let's go ahead and just go into solo mode, or get out of solo mode, and let's take a look at how this guy actually looks now. And that's not too bad. I'm liking what I got here. So yeah, that's pretty much, I think that's as far as I'm going to take this Photoshop part. So basically, what I've done is I've gone ahead and painted some of these veins. I've made multiple layers that I've been, you know, fading in and out. I've been making some corrections, and of course I've imported a texture from outside, layered it over, you know, the model that I had, and you know, I've made some corrections obviously, and then I projected it right back onto the model. Now, obviously, if I had even more detail on this eye, in terms of polygons, I could have very, very easily added even more details that I could have, you know, just done stuff with. But, I mean, I'm not going to be zooming into the model. Meanwhile, there's all this faceting going on here. In the future, of course, when I go ahead and just finish this model, you know, towards the end of this whole video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in fact, go ahead and just add one more subdivision level just to get rid of any of this faceting, because I will want to add a little bit more detail to this guy, because there will be, in fact, some close-ups. So when we're done painting the eyeball, the next part, of course, that I might want to do is I might want to go into geometry and go ahead and just press mirror and weld. And of course, this model has multiple subdivisions. What happens if I lower it? Let's see how much detail I actually lose. Okay, you know what? It doesn't look like we've lost much, so I'm just going to go ahead and just delete the higher level. But for the most part, when you're painting, it really is a good idea to paint with a higher level. You can always delete the highest level afterwards, but for the process of projecting, really having more detail in your model, like maybe 2 million polygons for this eye, was a good idea. Of course, I did delete that in the end. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and just mirror and weld. And now you can see I have both my eyes nicely painted. I mean, yes, they're symmetrical, but I don't think anybody can tell. Anyways, I could always just go ahead and just rotate these eyes around and make them all unique. But for the most part, this eye is, I think that's as far as I'm going to take this eye. And next up, what I'm going to be working on is I'm going to be UVing these clothes. And then after I UV them, I'm going to go ahead and just keep using ZApp link and a few other tools to go ahead and add more detail to these clothes and texture them up. So let's see how this guy actually looks when he's rendered. So I'm going to go ahead and enable this. I'm going to go into render, occlusion, transparency, press BPR, and let it go. And I'm not really a fan of the transparency, to be honest. So I'm rendering once again just to see how it all looks when it's rendered. And then again, like the next chapter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and UV this shirt. And once I'm done UVing the shirt, I'm going to go ahead and just start painting the fabric textures on here, and I'm going to do the same thing with these pants. So this chapter's done. Cheers.